From the Opubco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. Time for We Pick 'em. Barry, it's all NBA playoffs all the time. Let's get right to it with these conference semifinals out east. Pacers, Wizards, all tied up at 1-1. They resume on Friday night at 7 o'clock. Who you got winning this series?
I've got the Wizards. I had Wizards before the series started. They get the split in Indy. And nothing I've seen says that Indiana is out of its funk. It gets a very tight win over Washington in Indianapolis. I think the Pacers are still a mess. I think Washington wins.
Yep, I'm going with Washington in this series too. I said Wizards in 6 before things started. I still think that's going to hold. I just think the Wizards offensively are giving the Pacers too many problems. Obviously what happened with Roy Hibbert in Game 1 is concerning. He came back and played well in Game 2, but just where is his head and what are you going to get from him on any given night is anybody's guess. You can't have your starting center and one of your mainstays, one of your main pieces of the puzzle be that much up in the air. It doesn't work that way. So I think the Wizards are definitely in a better spot. I'm going with Wizards in 6. What about that other Eastern Conference series, Barry? Heat Nets up 1-0 are the Heat. 6 p.m. on Thursday is Game 2 of this series. Who you got in this one?
I've got the Heat. I think they'll win it in 3.
Winning in 3?
Brooklyn's terrible. They're just a product of the East. Miami's going through the motions. They're just trying to stay interested until they get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I got the Heat winning this one too. I think I've got the Heat in the requisite 4, though, to actually win the best-of-7 series. But yeah, I think the Heat wins this one pretty easily and then gives itself a nice little rest before whoever comes through that other series comes through. All right, what about the other Western Conference semifinal, Barry? Spurs, Blazers. Spurs up 1-0 in this one. They play Thursday night at 8:30. Who you got winning this series?
I've got the Spurs. It's interesting. The West semifinals, after all those great first-round series, the semifinals have all been blowouts so far, and the Spurs just killed Portland in Game 1. Tony Parker really did a number on Damian Lillard. So I don't know. I don't know if Portland will play him close, but I think the Spurs have a big edge in depth, in experience, in a lot of the things that matter come playoff time. I'm going to take San Antonio rather easily, probably in 5.
Yeah, I got San Antonio winning this one. And before this round started, I said Spurs in 7. But the Blazers are going to have to come back out and show me more than they did in Game 1 because that was really an unexpected dip after what we saw out of the Blazers in the first round of the playoffs. They just didn't look like they were on the same footing as the Spurs. So Spurs keep playing like that. I could see them winning a much shorter series than 7. But hey, if the Blazers come back, steal Game 2 in San Antonio, maybe it does go the distance. But I still think the Spurs win in the end. All right, Barry, what about the series here? It flips to LA for Game 3. 9:30 start on Friday night. Who you got winning Game 3?
Game 3, I'm going to take the Clippers. I think the first home game for any team in a series generally gets the fan base going. Didn't help the Thunder in Game 1, but I do think the Clippers, having gotten a split, go back to LA, I think they'll be fired up in the Staples Center. I think the normal adjustments will be made. You tend to, the team that lost the previous game tends to get going in the next game. I like the Clippers in Game 3.
I'm going to go Thunder in Game 3. I just like the way Oklahoma City played in Game 2. Just so much going right, that focus, that intensity. And maybe it's fool's gold to think they're going to continue to play with that kind of urgency and intensity. We've seen that sort of wax and wane more than anything in these playoffs with this team. It's a little confounding that they can be so focused and so locked in one night, and the next night that sort of dissipates and they don't have quite the focus and energy. But I think they've turned a corner, feel like that they're the superior team, and they're going to go out there to LA and show it. I think they win Game 3 in that late game on Friday night. What about the series, Barry? Thunder, Clippers, who you got in this one?
I took Thunder in 7 before it started. I haven't seen much to make me change my mind. Clippers win Game 1 easily. Thunder wins Game 2 easily. I think it's going to be a fascinating series. I do think the Thunder has the edge. I think the Thunder can counter the Clippers' strengths better than the Clippers can counter the Thunder strengths.
Yep, I'm going to go with the Thunder in 7. That's what I picked before the series started. I'm sticking with that. And to me, what we saw to those first two games, we saw a really lopsided Clippers victory, and then we saw a more even matchup in game two. I think game two is much more indicative of what we're going to see in this series. I just don't think that we're going to see that type of blowout type of game. Yeah, and I mean, the Thunder won handily in game two, but there was still, that was a lot more drama filled than game one. I mean, by the second quarter of game one, we were pretty much aware of what was going to happen in that game. Much tighter throughout that game too. I think this series is going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of scoring. I see it going 7, but the Thunder, I just like what they have with Westbrook, Durant. It's just hard to see a team really being able to keep up with those two when they're playing well together. And right now, they are. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.